Oftentimes what happens is, even from just creating a budget, if a business isn't creating a budget or a forecast, you get into I'm just going to work and I'm going to work as hard as I can, and if there's some money left over, that's great. And all of a sudden you wake up 10 years later and you're doing the exact same thing. What we're encouraging businesses to do of all sizes and in different industries, but today specifically with attorneys, is let's get proactive and really think about what is it that we're ultimately wanting to accomplish so that we can create a budget and a plan to execute to get them where they ultimately want to go. My name is Chris Carman, and I'm a partner and business coach at Action Coach of Elm Grove. We're a group of business coaches, so we work with attorneys and other business owners to help them make more money, work less hours, and enjoy the business and achieve their goals. This morning what we were focused on is really helping the attorneys in the room get an idea of, as the owners of their firm, what numbers are important for them to really understand. It's a little bit unconventional from the accounting perspective, but one thing that I encourage my clients to do is, rather than paying everybody else and if there's any money left over, well, that's my profit in the business, I really encourage people to build profit into their fixed expenses like they would rent or payroll or anything else, so that they get paid just like everybody else gets paid, and it's not just sort of like an afterthought. So as a business owner would create a budget for the year, start at the end of the year and say, what's the profit you want to be making in the business, and work back from there to the monthly and weekly activity they need to generate that profit. Really with any business, but specifically with attorneys today, just because we're billing a lot of hours does not necessarily equate to cash in the bank. In theory it does at some point, but there is the gap between when the hours are billed and when the money is actually collected from the client. So cash flow is king, because businesses go out of business all the time because they're not aware of when the cash is going to be available versus the bills that they're paying. So using a cash flow statement, not just your profit and loss, not just your balance sheet, but also paying attention to your cash flow statement to understand where the money is going and when it will be going wherever it's going, is vital to any business. There are really three main statements that business owners need to look at from a financial perspective. One's the profit and loss or income statement. One is the balance sheet. But what I was saying this morning is that oftentimes they forget about the cash flow statement, and that's, in my opinion, the most important, because again, the cash is the king in the business. So I had shared a template that I use with my clients for a 6-week cash flow statement, that if the attorneys that were here weren't using it, or using a cash flow statement, or didn't know what to do, they could use that template that I shared. As business owners, we don't have to be watching every single number in the business like a hawk, and frankly you shouldn't be, because there's other things the owner should be doing. But there are some key numbers that you'd want to be looking at. We call those, it's the vital signs. Like when you go to the doctor, they check certain vital signs, and if something's out of whack, they'll dig in and get more information. But if everything's okay, everything's okay. So the idea is having the attorneys that were here put together a scorecard for their business, where they identify 3 to maybe 10 at the most key numbers in their organization that help them understand at a high level how they're doing. So in a typical organization, those numbers might be revenue, it might be profit, it might be cash in the bank. We talked this morning about maybe it's billable hours or percent of billable hours versus non-billable. Then we had a discussion around, but if you're only focused on the billable hours, how do you ever get out of always working on the billable hours? So some of the things they might want to track is number of meetings with potential alliance partners to get referrals, or number of referrals they're getting, or maybe it's number of referrals that they're giving. So there's no template to say these are the vital signs for an attorney, or the scorecard for an attorney, but at least, because each attorney may be different in the type of law they practice, but at least the concept for each owner to be able to identify what those will be, and then that gives indications of where there might be problems or opportunities in the business. Most people become attorneys because they enjoy the work. They go to law school, and they're usually very, very skilled at the work that they do. And so they are tempted or feel obligated to be continuing to bill hours. And also, let's be honest, that's what drives the revenue for the organization. But the challenge is that as the owner of a firm, if you ever want to grow that firm to larger than just you, there has to be a point where you say, all right, I'm going to allocate some time to work on my business, not just in it. Now, in it meaning billable hours and stuff that attorneys would do, but on it would be things like we were talking earlier about creating a budget or forecast for the company for the year, sitting down and reviewing their financial statements once a week and understanding where they're at, creating a system or process for hiring new attorneys and training those new attorneys, developing referral relationships with other with other professionals in their industry. So things that aren't necessarily billable at the time, but will help them create a future that is different from what it is now and help the business grow.